Chapter 14 of The Mandalorian has been released, Baby Yoda has broken the internet once again, and we are just getting started. What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel for my thoughts on the latest installment of The Mandalorian, and a few of my predictions for where the final 2 episodes of Season 2 may take us. So, the episode opens with Mando and Grogu on their way to Tython, which I thought was going to take at least a couple of episodes. I thought maybe they'd go there in the final installment, being Chapter 16, but here they were, Chapter 14, and they're headed to Tython. Now, they have a conversation in the ship before they arrive on the planet, and it's pretty clear that both of them have developed pretty strong feelings for one another, and they have a pretty tight bond now. And although Mando is trying to hide it, you can tell even beneath his mask that the fact that he may have to give the child up is really going to be a hard thing for him to do, and it doesn't really seem like, although the child doesn't speak, it doesn't seem like he's all that interested in leaving Mando behind either. But then they do eventually land on the planet. Din places Grogu on the Seeing Stone, and after a few moments he does reach out through the Force and creates this massive force field, and we know how things go from there. Now, this chapter had a few major reveals, but let's just jump right into the first one, which was the long-awaited return of Boba Fett. For some people, this may not seem like that big of a deal, but for others, this has been a reveal 40 years in the making, and Boba Fett's return came with a literal bang, as he introduces himself to Din Djarin, along with Fennec Shand, who fans had also believed to be dead. Together, the trio annihilates an entire army of stormtroopers, forcing them into retreat. Boba Fett finally reclaims his armor, but as the episode draws to a close, we see that their efforts were in vain, as a squad of dark troopers swoops in and captures Grogu from the stone where he had just finished an intense meditation session, in which we're left to assume he connected with one or maybe even more than one Force-sensitive being. Now, in that sequence where he is reaching out through the Force, he's literally able to see into the Force, and he could be reaching out to a light side or a dark side Force user, or even more than one Force user at the same time. So whether that's going to come back to help him out or hurt him in the future, we'll have to wait and see, but I could definitely envision a scenario where we come to this final battle in Chapter 8, and perhaps his rescue team of Mando and Boba and Fennec and possibly Ahsoka and maybe Bo-Katan are all teamed up, and maybe they're losing at this point, and then perhaps a Jedi or somebody else shows up to help them win the day. But again, that's just speculation. We'll have to wait and see. Now, after the child is taken, Mando has time to reflect on the fact that the Razor Crest was absolutely obliterated. So we're not going to be seeing his ship anymore, you wouldn't think. But he is able to gather a few important things like the staff that's made of Beskar that Ahsoka gifted to him, and of course the ball that Grogu loved to play with. And then we have the scene where Boba Fett tells Mando that he and Fennec are in his debt and they will help him to ensure the child's safety. So what I think is going to happen in these remaining 2 episodes is sort of like in Season 1, Mando is going to go round up an army and try to get the child back. I think he's going to possibly recruit Bo-Katan, he's going to get Ahsoka, he may bring Cara Dune, he's going to bring back some people from Season 1 as we saw. Obviously he's going to have Boba and Fennec, and they're going to go after the Empire. Now, I'm not convinced that they're going to be successful, because we knew that the Empire had to get control of the child at some point, because from what we can tell, it does seem like Snoke was actually created from Grogu's DNA. We don't know this for sure, but that is the implication, and so they did need him because he is their coveted donor for cloning Force-sensitive beings. But I could definitely imagine a scenario in which either the battle is left open-ended as Chapter 16 concludes, and then maybe that person that the child reached out to arrives at the end of the episode and then we're left on this cliffhanger, or perhaps Mando and his squad that he rounds up actually loses and Season 3 opens with Grogu still in the Empire's possession, and perhaps they have possessed him or he's been trained by some dark side Force user over there, and he's now evil when Season 3 opens and there's this massive fight to get him back. And you know, the possibilities are endless. I don't really know what's going to happen, but I could definitely see this scenario taking place. Now, what do I actually think's going to happen? If I had to bet on something, I would say I think Mando is going to rescue the child, but I also think that the Empire is going to be successful in taking some of the child's DNA for their own use before Din is able to get Grogu back. Now, if we talk about Chapter 14 specifically a little more, this was a violent episode. This was probably the most violent thing we've seen, for sure in The Mandalorian, I would say, but maybe ever since Disney took over Star Wars and started making movies. There were some violent scenes in Rogue One, I guess, but Boba Fett was violent. I mean, they were graphic with his assault on these stormtroopers and the way, I mean, he was just clubbing them in the face, and I mean, it was awesome, but definitely a violent episode, and I liked that. I'm definitely down for it. The return of Fennec Shand, we had heard rumors about that, so some of us kind of knew it was coming, but I definitely thought that was a cool thing to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing this new alliance of Boba and Mando, but also with Fennec. You know, Boba and Fennec are viewed as villains, as evil characters, and now they're teaming up with Mando, who doesn't really have an allegiance with light or dark per se, but we view him as a good guy, and now he's teamed up with Boba Fett, who, although, yeah, he's just a simple man trying to make his way in the galaxy, we do view him as a criminal, and now he's teamed up with Mando, and I think that's so awesome. A lot of people thought that they were going to end up fighting each other at some point, that Boba and Mando were going to be pitted against one another, but I really like this idea that they are teaming up for a greater cause. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the two of them working together down the road. But I think that just about wraps this up. I just wanted to share some of my initial thoughts after watching this episode, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up here. I cannot wait to see how the rest of this season shakes out and what the future holds for this show, but comment your guys' thoughts about this episode down below, and feel free to share anything you think I may have missed. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like to support the channel. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and may the Force be with you always.